Chapter 2, 4 Types of Entrepreneurs. There are 4 primary ways to become an entrepreneur: launching a brand new startup, acquiring a franchise, becoming an acquisition entrepreneur, and becoming a sponsored entrepreneur. The fourth one, sponsored entrepreneur, is the focus of this book. Let's look at some pros and cons of each entrepreneurship model. 1. A startup. Let's talk about the startup first. This is perhaps the riskiest option and most fraught with potential for failure. It's also the hardest and most expensive way to enter entrepreneurship. Yet, for some reason, society has crowned the startup as the king of entrepreneurship. It's sexy to be a startup entrepreneur. We hear the alluring tales of people starting massive tech companies in their basements and growing to $100 million in sales in 2 years. Then, 2 years later, they become billion-dollar initial public offerings. This is far and away the exception to the rule. Being a startup entrepreneur requires several things. The first is money before you launch. This is because you're not likely to make any of it for quite some time. Now, this money can come from you or from somebody else who believes enough in you to give you their own money to get started in this venture. The next thing you're going to need is an idea. This can't just be any regular idea that you came up with sitting around the campfire. It has to be a really good idea, one that the world wants. And then you have to figure out, how are you going to deliver this idea to the world? Next, you'll need to find an office space to house you, buy equipment, pay for marketing, and hire a sales team and an assistant. If you'll be selling products, you'll need to purchase inventory and have a place to store it. All of this must take place before you even have a chance to figure out if you can drive revenue and be profitable. According to the U.S. Small Business Administration, most micro businesses cost around $3,000 to start, while most home-based franchises cost $2,000 to $5,000. Yet the success rate is low. According to data from the Bureau of Labor Statistics, as reported by Fundera, approximately 20% of small businesses fail within the first year, 30% in the second year, half in the fifth year, and about 70% by the end of the 10th year. I know this firsthand because I've watched someone very close to me start up their own business. Because this was a service-based business, it shouldn't have had many expenses to get started. But I watched as nearly $30,000 in losses piled up over the first year as the owner tried to get the company off the ground. And that $30,000 loss did not include any income to the household. Perhaps you would have no problem absorbing a $30,000 loss in your first year, but many people would. Let's say your current income is $100,000 per year. If you leave your full-time job to launch a startup, your income will now be zero. Not only are you not bringing in any income, you're incurring expenses right away. You will not be able to meet your own living expenses or the monthly business expenses unless you have some money set aside. One business expense is for marketing efforts, such as building and hosting a website, paying for coaching, and investing in the systems to put in place to fast track your way to success. These strategies don't always generate the results that you expect. Many coaches, for example, don't have the track record to success that you would hope they had. The ones who do have the track record are significantly more expensive than most entrepreneurs are willing to pay to get started in a business. My point in all this is that startup entrepreneurship is absolutely a viable method proven by the existence of any company that was ever started. But for you, it may be significantly more expensive and significantly riskier, and the upside potential of it may just be the same as another method. Number 2, a franchise. The second type of entrepreneurship I want to discuss is the acquisition of a franchise. With the franchise model, you gain some form of certainty, take less risk to enter the model, and receive a proven system to generate revenue. You also don't have to come up with a system or processes because your franchisor has worked out all the details. It's typically a replicable system. You know exactly who to hire, where to put the location, what to sell, and what the staffing and expenses look like. It's significantly more predictable than a startup. This is an important factor in growing a business and a key component of the sponsored entrepreneur model, which we'll discuss soon. The problem with the franchise model is that in addition to all the regular capital you need to run a startup, you also have to come up with capital to pay the franchise owner both a significant amount upfront and an ongoing basis through the remainder of your franchise agreement through royalties. Given the vast differences in franchises, the cost of entry can range from less than $10,000 to more than $5 million. But on average, startup costs are about $50,000 to $200,000. These costs can include franchise fees, furniture fixtures, decor packages, marketing costs, point of sale software, construction and architectural costs, promotions, and more. As for royalty costs, every year franchisees must pay the franchise a fee equivalent to a percentage of sales. This means you'll always be paying the IRS and your franchisor's percentage of your revenue. The percentage varies according to the franchisor and the location. Burger King charges its franchisees 4.5% of sales in addition to a $50,000 franchisee fee. Dunkin' Donuts charges a royalty fee of 5.9% of sales each year, in addition to a franchise fee that can range anywhere from $40,000 to $90,000, depending on where the restaurant is located. The other problem with the franchise model is that your growth is typically going to be capped. Franchisors are in the business of selling franchises. The more franchises they sell, the more revenue they can generate. Some of them limit the number of franchises you can own. Almost all of them create geographic boundaries for where you can grow toward, which puts a significant limit on the upside potential. The only way to grow is to acquire more franchises, in which case you have to pay them another franchise fee for them to give you access to additional geography. Many people have gotten wealthy with the franchise model, but the way they did it was by opening multiple locations over many years. Their ability to do this was 100% dictated by the terms of the franchise agreement, and every time they acquired a new franchise, it required an additional capital outlay beyond the normal expenses of operating a business. Number 3, acquisition entrepreneurship. The third entrepreneurship option I want to talk about is acquisition entrepreneurship. This is where you use capital to purchase a business that's already up and running. With this model, in theory, you can get instant cash flow. Once you invest your money, you can expect to generate revenue right away. You'll also have a business that, in theory, you can grow and scale over time with your added effort and expertise. Sometimes you can purchase these businesses with an SBA loan or other type of financing that require a smaller amount of capital outlay to get the cash flow you want. In theory, this works extremely well. You can get high returns on your money, assuming you have it, especially if you're able to leverage it. But there are a lot of challenges with this method as well. First, you'll need some money. If you don't have money, you'll need to take out a large loan to buy the business. Before you buy the business, you have to ask yourself the question, if this business was going so well, why is this person selling it? Now, there are several good reasons why they might be selling it. Perhaps they want to retire, or the owner suffered an injury or illness, or maybe their interests have changed and they just want to move on. Maybe the business was designed to sell in the first place. Those are all legitimate reasons. There are also some more worrisome reasons. For example, maybe something wasn't working well in the business. Maybe the business was unable to grow, perhaps because of some bad eggs in leadership. Those factors may or may not become apparent during the due diligence period when you're looking at the business to decide whether or not you want to buy it. Once you buy it, you're stuck with it. Most of these businesses are acquired through loans, so if you took out a loan to buy it, you're also stuck with that loan. During my career, I have acquired multiple businesses. I've been in situations in which most of the business was good. We were able to make it profitable right away, and I've been in other situations in which cash flow was declining significantly at a rapid pace, and I had to do everything in my power to pull it out of the nose stall. That experience was incredibly taxing, humbling, and debilitating. Also, I wasn't able to use my strengths to grow the business. Instead, I was focused on keeping it from failing. You never know what you're getting into when you buy a business. It's always a risk. If this is your first time becoming an entrepreneur, I would say this option probably isn't a good entree into being an entrepreneur compared with the other options. Number 4, sponsored entrepreneurship. The final option for entering the entrepreneurship world is what I call the sponsored entrepreneur model. Here's how it works. You work with a well-established company that has a track record of success, a solid reputation, and a brand name that consumers recognize. You are given a working model to use in building your own business within that company by using your own brand via your DBA, doing business as. Initially, you might be required to sell mostly the products from the company you're working for, but in exchange for doing that, the company will provide you various levels of support, systems, and instruction. The most common type of business you'll see using this model is insurance and financial services. While most insurance agents provide protection products and services to consumers, business insurance agents serve brokers, financial advisors, and financial planners, all titles of people who have entered the sponsored entrepreneurship model. The financial services sector excels within the sponsored entrepreneurship model. It has great potential for growth and scalability. Here is one caveat though. Anytime your business sells something that people are mandated to purchase, such as health insurance, car insurance, or home insurance, you will have a large market for potential customers, but the margins will be significantly smaller and the competition will be a lot higher. For that reason, I recommend that you consider becoming a sponsored entrepreneur in the sectors of the insurance and financial services industry that are not mandated or required. That includes life insurance, management of assets, and portfolio management.